Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to a game of throws in World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. I sometimes wonder if I'm just overdoing it with this video title, A Game of Throws, because it does kind of, it's a bit of a spoiler. Somebody's going to throw, not saying who, not saying when, but somebody. But then again, it's not so much the destination, it's how we get there that matters. Today we have a fairly unusual lineup, although I suspect this is the North American server because of the low population of the battle. It's a 6v6 random battle. And I say unusual, but given the overall lower population of the North American server compared to EU certainly, it's probably not that unusual to see these 6v6 random battles. Nevertheless, the lineup is, well, again, I say unusual, but well, the Warships Matchmaker, it's not that unusual. One team has radar, the other team does not. One team has a carrier, the other team does not. And both teams have sneaked their respective advantages in the shape of a radar on the enemy battleship, the Missouri, and a flight deck on the friendly battleship, the Kearsarge. Aside from that, the matchmaking is also decidedly skewed, with one battleship, 2 cruisers, and 3 destroyers per team. And this sneaking in advantages that both teams have done in the shape of the carrier on Jabberwocky's team and of course the radar on the enemy team is really bad news for all of the destroyers. The matchmaking's not that bad for Jabberwocky though here in the Azuma. Although he's still going to have to be careful regardless of the matchmaking. Notice as soon as he got spotted and targeted he started shifting course and speed because while this is a very powerful ship, I mean, it's a cruiser on with 9 310mm guns. The guns are excellent for all kinds of reasons. The armour, however, is not. At best, aside from the belt armour, the heaviest armour plating on this thing is only 25mm, which means it can be overmatched by 15-inch or 380mm guns or bigger. So the Missouri will slap him into the middle of next week if it lands a hit with its armor-piercing shells. That, of course, does not mean that the Azuma has an easy time if somebody's firing high explosive at it, because again, only 25mm of armor plating, which means it takes huge amounts of high explosive damage too. This creates all kinds of problems for Azuma captains, because it does mean that you basically have to play the ship very, very conservatively. Now, you're aided in that by having, I think, the longest range of all Tier 9 cruisers, with the exception of the Siegfried. These guns nearly have a 20-kilometer range. And the shot dispersion is very, very good. The shell velocity, it's not bad, but it's not great. Which can make it a bit of a lottery. I mean, look at the dispersion on those. That's not bad. Does take them a while to get there though. And while the Azuma's stealth is pretty good by the standards of other high tier supercruisers, it's pretty bad by the standards of everything else that isn't a battleship. So you really do have to try to keep your targets at arm's length, particularly at the beginning of a battle, and just subject them to a withering hail of long-range 310mm gunfire, which is basically exactly what Jabberwocky's been doing. The problem is, while this isn't exactly passive gameplay, you're unlikely to be influencing the outcome of the battle right from the start, and you're certainly not going to be pushing any cap circles, given how vulnerable this thing is both to high explosive and armor-piercing shells of sufficient caliber, and well, high explosive shells of any caliber. So unless you plan on having your ship reduced to a smoking wreck within 4 minutes of the battle start, you kind of have to play this thing in a support role. And that means relying on the rest of your team to make the plays. Yeah, exactly. I can already see you type in the comments. And you're not wrong. Yeah, that's usually a quick way to lose. I mean, Jabberwocky is not doing anything wrong here. He is playing this ship precisely the way it is supposed to be played, and leaving it up to the rest of the team to make the important early game plays while simply supporting them as best as he can. And as a direct result of that, they're now 270 points, 2.5 cap circles and 2 kills behind. It's not his fault. Oh, that was nice. His spider sense was definitely tingling there. He got spotted about 30 seconds ago when he was shooting at Missouri, and nobody had direct line of sight to him. Well, nobody that he could see, which means, yep, enemy destroyer. Down there, that away. Now that's a problem. But he anticipated that there were going to be torpedoes coming when he got... Well, I think there were two things that gave it away. One, he got spotted while shooting at the Missouri without anybody visible having line of sight at him, and that cap circle started getting flipped. So he picked the exact right moment to get the hell out of there and dodge those torpedoes. And I believe that's... Oh, he's spotted. Where are you, you little bugger? That's got to be the Vaquelan, the French Tier 7. Because he was last spotted down here. So that's him. There he is. He's already got the high explosive loaded. I believe we're about to scratch one enemy destroyer. Come on, baby. Oh, you've got to be kidding. He has to kill him. Now, he does have hydro. A lot of Japanese cruisers are very, very low on the consumable situation. He's going to eat one, which is unfortunate. If the first salvo... I mean, he's got him, but it... Well, to be fair, I think the torpedoes were in the water before he even fired his first salvo at the enemy destroyer, so that was going to happen either way. It's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. So, a much-needed kill there, and for his own personal safety, I mean, the enemy team are still 300 points ahead, and they still have one clear cap circle advantage, but he's now flipping Alpha back. And, oh, wow, the Vaquelan managed to get another two torpedoes away, but they're going to miss. This is fine. And the team's two surviving destroyers, the Uloy and the Ostjotland, are in the process of flipping the central cap at Bravo. Pops his spotter plane there to give himself a little bit of extra range, because, well, right now he's right at the other end of the battlefield from the vast majority of the enemy team, and long-range fire support is what this ship is for. So, a couple of shots out there against the Jaeger, enemy destroyer. Guns on that thing are beyond terrible, but it does have very, very good torpedoes, and yet somehow it's managing to win a gunfight against the Uloy and an Ostjotland. I'm not quite sure what's going on here or how this is even remotely possible, but, well, you're watching it happen. And there goes the Uloy, taken out by the Missouri of all things with direct gunfire. It looks like everybody's switching to the Ostjotland now, and the Kearsarge up ahead doesn't have an awful lot of health. I mean, neither does the Missouri. I mean, this is not great. They still only have one kill, the Vaquelan, thanks to Jabberwocky here. They've lost half of the team. They're 350 points behind, and the battle isn't even 8 minutes old. The only spot of good news, the fact that, well, both teams control one cap circle, again, thanks to Jabberwocky down here at Cap Circle Alpha, and they are contesting the central cap at Bravo, which means the enemy team are no longer getting any points from that, but look at what it's costing them. If the price for a cap circle is half your team, then it's not worth the price, because then you've got nothing left to hold on to it with. And it's at this point where the Kearsarge goes down, right before he nails the Missouri, where things were almost as bad as they could possibly get. For half a second there, it was 2 against 5, and the scores were 199 against 666. They're still outnumbered 2-1. They've lost their carrier, even though the Kearsarge does still have some aircraft up, and if the Kearsarge player is smart, he's not going to attack anybody with them. He's instead going to keep them airborne and spotting, in particular that Jaeger over there, because that thing doesn't have a smoke screen. And keeping that thing lit up, and to be fair to the Kearsarge player, that is in fact exactly what he appears to be doing. Rather than trying to score a few extra points by using them in a direct attack on the enemy destroyer, he's just keeping him circled and keeping him lit up for as long as possible. So, you know, GG to the Kearsarge player. You might have lost your ship, but you're certainly making the maximum possible use of its remaining aircraft. And there's the high caliber award. However, it's at this point where Jabberwocky realises, yeah, it might be a good idea to leave the Jaeger to the Ostjotland and the Kearsarge, because he's got bigger problems of his own right now. Here's every remaining ship on the enemy team, and they're all going for him. Now, the only good news here is he doesn't have to worry about any high caliber armor piercing, because the Missouri's dead. But, well, high explosive of any caliber is going to wreck this ship thanks to its terrible 25mm of plating. However, if you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's an Italian cruiser which has torpedoes, and a destroyer has just done a drive-by, and there's a very suspicious-looking smokescreen over there. Why isn't he running his hydro? I think I can actually see Jabberwocky's reasoning here. I mean, that torpedo scraped some paint down the side. But I think the... Whoa, was the Brindisi, because he's definitely trying to get... And he does get the torpedoes away, but turning broadside like that against a whole bunch of 310mm armor piercing guaranteed his death. He does eat 2 of the torpedoes from the other side, but I think the reason he didn't bother using the hydro in the first place was because, well, one, obvious torpedoes were kind of obvious anyway, and he didn't have to worry about any torpedoes from the Groningen over there doing a drive-by, or the Pozorski doing a drive-by, because, well, one, that thing's torpedoes only have a 4-kilometer range, and the Groningen doesn't have any. And obvious Brindisi torpedoes were fairly bloody obvious, so didn't really need to use the hydro. That doesn't mean he's not in the shit, though, because he's down to 6,000 health. He's got the heal off. And, oh, nice little broadside target there against the... You have got to be kidding me. Really? Well, it's Russian. That should have been the end of the Russian cruiser. And yet, rather than firing high explosive and killing him, the Pozorski continues to pepper him with 6-inch armor piercing against an angled cruiser while continuing to, I assume, try to push into torpedo range, which of course is exactly why Jabberwocky is backing off. The Groningen, however, is firing the high explosive, so he switches to him, just as the friendly Osterjotland gave up the pursuit of the Jaeger and comes back to assist. There goes the Groningen. An extremely, it has to be said, lucky detonation there, 15,000 damage. The Pozorski still giving broadside against a supercruiser armed with 9 310mm guns. Boom, headshot, there he goes. There's the Kraken unleashed. 5 kills. There were only 6 ships on the enemy team in the first place. He sunk 5 of them. He's continued to back up because the Pozorski was definitely closing into torpedo range. He didn't see any torpedoes get launched. He pops the hydro now just in case and builds up a bit of speed in case he has to do any torpedo dodging, but nope, no torpedoes. At least no torpedoes from the Pozorski. The Jaeger does still pose a significant torpedo threat. The Osterjotland abandoned the pursuit in order to come back and help him out. The fact that he's spotted doesn't really tell him an awful lot, because that just means the Jaeger could be anywhere within nearly 17 kilometers, and sure enough, Jaeger torpedoes, pretty much all of them. Now, he did accelerate. Oh, and he does take 1. But if he hadn't started moving forward when he did, that would have been game over. Well, not necessarily game over. It would have been game over for him. And it would have been down to the Osterjotland on the team to find and kill that Jaeger. Because they're still 250 points and 1 cap circle behind. Now, he did have some idea of which direction the Jaeger was going to be in, because somebody flipped this cap circle, and it can only have been the Jaeger, and he is out there somewhere. Oh, hang on a second, he's inside this cap circle. The cap's contested. Ooh, and I was wondering what the Jaeger's torpedo reload must be like. Yeah, it seems pretty spicy, doesn't it? Unfortunately, very large supercruiser-sized, in fact even battleship-sized gap there. The Jaeger is still in this cap circle right now, and that's really bad news. Although at the point where Jabberwocky launched his spotter aircraft, the Jaeger abandoned the cap circle, but he still has line of sight. And given how quickly that guy's torpedoes reload, this is a very, very dangerous situation for Jabberwocky. But he really wants that 6th kill. I'm not sure it's worth losing your ship over. I mean, you do not need to find and kill the Jaeger. You just need to avoid being killed by him. There's still more than 5 minutes of the battle remaining. Oh, he's got undetected. That may mean that there are torpedoes on the way. Yep, there they are. Yeah. This is getting way too tense for my liking. Jabberwocky, mate, learn to take the hint. Let the Osterjotland go after him. You're undetected for the moment. Spotted again. You know what that means, don't you, boys and girls? That Jaeger's lining up another torpedo shot. Now, the Jaeger seems to be working its way around from the right to the left, because that's where all of those... Oh, there he is! Why would you take the shot? That thing's guns are terrible. Oh, he's trying to get a fire. Okay, I can see why he took the risk there, because he did manage to go undetected, but Jabberwocky was still able to score a hit. It was only one penetration, but he set a fire. So he's managed to do to the Jaeger what the Jaeger was trying to do him, force the use of the damage control. Unfortunately for the Jaeger, he hasn't been nearly as clever as he thought he was going to be, because he took those shots, dumped the torpedoes, ducked back into cover, and that's exactly what the Ostjotland was planning on him doing as he went around the other side of the island and finished him off. Unfortunately, denying Jabberwocky his 6th and final kill, but at least preventing Jabberwocky from dying, although in the process earning the Dreadnought, Kraken Unleashed, Devastating Strike and High Caliber. And honestly, getting a Dreadnought award in a cruiser that only has 25mm of armour is a pretty impressive achievement. Well, getting 5 kills in a battle where there are only 6 enemies to begin with is also a fairly impressive achievement. As of course is coming back from a 2 cap circle 460.2 versus 5 deficit, all thanks to Jabberwocky Stern here in the Azima and his surviving teammate in the Ostjotland. Hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.